The fifth grader who started the American Revolution. George Washington, Benjamin Franklin, Betsy Ross. These are famous and well-known figures of the late 1700s, recognized for their roles in the American Revolution. Today, most Americans know their names. There is another name, though, that most people have never heard of: 11-year-old Christopher Sider. Although his story is not well known, it is extremely important. Christopher is the fifth grader who started the American Revolution. Christopher Sider was born in Braintree, Massachusetts in 1759. He had 5 brothers and sisters, and his parents moved to the American colonies from Germany before he was born. Since Christopher's family was poor, he started working his first paid job when he was around 10 years old. He took a part-time job for a wealthy widow named Grizel Apthorpe, who was known as Madam Apthorpe. Christopher was like an assistant for her, doing whatever job she needed around her large home, and he would run errands for her in the city. Madam Apthorpe lived in the north end of Boston, and Christopher's family lived several miles away in the town of Braintree. Since his family did not own a horse, and it was too far for him to walk every day, he moved into the house with her. When Christopher wasn't working, he went to school and hung out with his friends, like most kids his age. In the winter of 1770, the colonists who lived in Boston were becoming more and more unhappy with the taxes placed on them from the British. Even though he lived 3,000 miles away, King George III was making the Boston colonists pay for taxes on goods like tea, glass, and certain types of paper. Tension in the city was increasing, and arguments broke out between the Loyalists and the Patriots every day. On February 22, 1770, a group of boys gathered outside the home of Ebenezer Richardson. Boston schools let students out early on Thursdays, so many of the kids were walking home from school when they noticed the crowd and joined in. The boys were angry with Ebenezer because he took down a sign one of the boys recently put up outside a nearby Loyalist store. The sign was posted to protest the shop buying goods from outside the colonies. Christopher Sider, a fifth grader who just turned 11, was walking back to Madam Apthorpe's house from school when he noticed a commotion in front of a small shop. Some of the boys were throwing rocks and even apples at a man as he ran up his steps and into the house nearby. The crowd followed him. The boys continued to throw things at the house, and soon adults joined in too. Christopher saw the man peek out the second-floor window when one of the rocks went right through the glass, shattering glass everywhere and making a large hole in the window. The next thing Christopher saw was the black barrel of a musket poke out of the hole. In an attempt to scare off the crowd, Ebenezer fired a musket over their heads, but unfortunately, the musket shot scattered and hit Christopher Sider, who died that evening. 4 days later, Christopher's funeral procession drew huge crowds, bringing out thousands of people to mourn his death. Samuel Adams, one of the leaders of the Sons of Liberty, used Christopher's death to bring together the citizens of Boston. Samuel Adams called him the first martyr to American liberty. Right after the funeral, protests increased around Boston, and just days later, the well-known Boston Massacre took place. While few people today know Christopher Sider's story, the 11-year-old boy's death could be considered the first of the American Revolution and inspired so many to rise up against what they felt was unfair treatment from the British.